The game opens up with Ichiban at his new job at Hello Work, a company created to help people to get a job. Everything is going great, he has a boss that respects him, a lot of friends and colleagues that admire him. However, after the first day with Sayako with him trying to propose to her, she stops talking to him for over 1 year. Then right after he gets fired from his job because of a video that leaked of him helping an ex-Yakuza steal stuff from a store when he was taken out of context. He then hears the Shiryu clan has started to get a lot of new Yakuza members in their clan, so he, Adachi and Namba investigate it to see what it's all about. They find out the new leader Ebina has taken in ex-Yakuza to give them jobs that does not revolve the usual Yakuza stuff. In the clan, Ichiban meets Sawashiro again, who were in prison last time we saw him in 7 but got released. Sawashiro, despite everything he's done, wants to make amends to Ichiban. He tells Ichiban about his mother he never knew, who lives in Hawaii, and gives her a address so he can see her. Down in Hawaii, a bunch of shenanigans happens involving him almost getting in prison, having his clothes stolen, almost getting killed by Yakuza gang, and almost getting mugged by a taxi driver. But after all that, his mother is nowhere to be seen, and as he finds out, every gang in Hawaii is after her. Despite Kiryu helping him, he gets sent back to Japan due to his condition getting a lot worse. So it's up to Ichiban to find his mother before any other gang does, and Kiryu to find out what's going on with the Shiryu clan, because spoilers, they're up to no good. But that's the gist of the beginning of the game, at least the first chapters. With that out of the way, how is the gameplay? Infinite Wealth continues a turn-based style combat from 7. I really liked the combat in 7 and found it very refreshing, especially the animations and classes. It was a very solid and very enjoyable battle system, and thankfully Infinite Wealth, it is even better. First of all, you can actually move around in battles, which is so much better. You can move around a circle area, which can be used to your advantage, both to be able to pick up items from the ground and use against enemies like barrels, rocks, or even rocket launchers. Just being able to move around makes a big difference in my opinion. There's also the returning mechanic of when an enemy is down on the ground, you can also use one of the party members to run towards them and stomp them to do extra damage. All the party members have different skills and different classes. Everyone starts off with the original class, but as the game goes on you can unlock more classes, or costumes I should say. While I did change some of the costumes here and there, I kinda just stuck around using the original costumes. Except for Tommy, he became a surfer, and Namba, he became a hostess.
Happy birthday!
All these skills have unique and amazing animations, like Kiryu summoning a dragon, or Shitozu dancing with the enemy and then kicking their ass. But we can't forget about the best attack in the game, the satellite laser beam, that shoots a big laser and damages every opponent around you. It is awesome. Just like before, you have Ichiban and party members in the battles. In this game, it's up to 4 of them in the battle, with either Ichiban or Kiryu being the main lead. So because of Ichiban's schizophrenia, he will see the enemies as monsters or weird creatures. The others in the team, they can't see him, only him. There are a lot of different unique creatures to fight, and it's always cool to see the new ones. There's actually side quests involving around fighting enemies that we'll get to later. From tall clowns to perverts. There is no limit when it comes to the imagination of these enemy designs. In the streets, enemies are displayed with a color over the head and how tough they are. Red being on the same or somewhat same level as you, purple being way too over level to beat, and blue being underleveled. It's actually a pretty neat mechanic that when you meet on enemies with blue color displayed, you can press R2 and just kill them instantly, cutting down on grinding in time. It's a very great touch. Also returning in the battles, we get the Pound Mates again, returning from 7. You can summon a certain character in battle that will either do a powerful attack or heal a team. The more expensive they are, the stronger the attack is. Some of them are kinda cheap, only 30,000 yen to summon them, while others can cost 10 million. I love 7 a lot, and I think it is fantastic in almost every way. It's definitely like my favorite game in the series, but if I had one complaint about it, it's that it's a downgrade graphically from 6. The character models, well, still look good, they don't look as good as in 6, and the lighting looked a lot worse. I think they made 7 look this way so it could run smoother. Thankfully, Infinite Wealth looks so much better, and it's the best looking game in the series. The character model looks fantastic with so much detail in them. Ichiban and Kiryu has never looked this good before. Not only that, but the environment looks great. Hawaii is such a great looking location, especially at the sunsets. It looks stunning. Hawaii was a really good choice for location. You also get to return back to Kamurocho and Yokohama. I really like Yokohama. It is such a nice distinct look to it and enough things to do here that it makes it stand out. Kamurocho for a while I did kind of get tired of. During Yakuza 6 I was like, okay damn, can we get a new city please? But not having been there for a while, it did feel good coming back. In this game, Hawaii has all the side quests. There are a lot of side quests, around 80 or so, the standard amount for a Yakuza game. Some side quests even get introduced into the main story. I think Infinite Wealth has a really good selection of good side quests. I'm not gonna go through all of them because that would be all day, but I want to go through at least my favorites. A quest I really liked was about this boy selling lemonade at this stand. Ichiban helps the boy sell more lemonade, and the boy tells Ichiban he's doing this so he can gift a lady who was like a mother to him at the orphanage he grew up in. Learning she's leaving for New York with her husband, he wants to give her a gift, a tiara she saw at the store she wanted. By the end, he has enough money and manages to give the gift to her, as he says he's always going to remember him when he sees the tiara. As she goes in, the boy sheds a tear and Ichiban comforts him and tells him he did a good job. It's a very nice and a sweet sub-story. Another one I really liked was the return of the giant vacuum from 7. So basically in 7, a professor made this giant vacuum that would clean the streets, but then it started going haywire and sucked up people instead. Now the professor did make adjustments so it only sucked up trash, but then it sucks up people with trashy personalities, which I found was pretty clever. But Ichiban defeated the machine and the people were saved, and the professor needs to make more adjustments and hopefully it won't suck up people anymore, but at this point I wouldn't be surprised if I see it again. Last one I will mention is my absolute favorite in the game. This revolves around an old man trying to buy ice. Not ice cream, but just ice. Ichiban talks to the man. As it turns out, he wants the ice to try and make snow for his wife's last wish, as he's dying soon. The next day, a baby trolley rolls all around the city as Ichiban needs to get it to save the baby, but...
おい、無事。おお、春日さんやんけ。奇遇やな。助かったで。
Yeah, it's not a normal baby at all. As the old man returns to Ichiban and Baby Man, Ichiban gets an idea of what to use as snow. This white powder from their diapers. The Baby Man wants to help the old man and fulfill his wife's dreams, which I found was pretty sweet of him. Back at their hotel room, the old man talks to his wife about how he wants to be her prince, but feels like it's not because he was always working. But then she responds back, saying he was her prince and that she knows he was away a lot because he was providing for the two of them. She then sees snow, which is the baby powder, and as she closes her eyes, the old man is looking down at hands and says, "I think the snow is melting," as he's crying. Let It Snow is one of my favorite quests in the entire series, and I think it's one everyone should be experiencing when playing this game.
二人に雪届いたかの。きっと届いたさ。笑えるほど綺麗な雪を見せられたと思うぜ。せやな。ハワイの雪っちゅうのもおつなものやな。
However, in Yokohama and Kamurocho, there are no side quests, but there is curious reminiscence. At some point in the game, Kira and Ichiban split up, with Ichiban staying in Hawaii and Kira in Kamurocho due to Kira's sickness from cancer, only having 6 months left to live, so none of the others want him to have a checklist of things to do before he dies. Also, I want to mention, just like Ichiban, he can also see enemies as weird creatures because Ichiban infected him. The reminiscences are memories of Kira's life, from major events to smaller ones, and they are all scattered all over the towns. It was pretty fun to explore this scene again, seeing all locations of Kiryu used to visit to characters he has known. There are about 80 of these, so there's plenty to see, but there's also several unique ones where we actually get to see the characters talk or even interact with Kiryu at times. Some appear in the main story, but most of them come in the help of none other than Makoto Date. Oh my god, yes, this man is back, I'm so happy. Makoto Date is one of the best characters in the entire series. I always get so happy seeing him, and damn it, it's been too long since we've properly seen him. He got one small scene in 7 and it didn't show up in the Manner's name, so we haven't really seen it since Yakuza 6 properly. But here we get a lot of him, which I'm so glad for. Date-san comes in contact with Kiryu to help him lose some ties. With this, I mean Date-san helps Kiryu to see how several characters he knew before are doing now. Of course, being still tied with the Daijo faction, he can't exactly talk to them, but he can listen and see how they feel about him. We get to see some fan favorites like Kazuki and Yuya, both who appeared several times in the Yakuza game in the main story. Kazuki owns the Stardust Club and Yuya is the bodyguard. I love both characters, and it was really nice seeing them again, and damn, they both look so good. We also get to see these two who I forgot the name of, but they are pretty awesome. But my favorite one was the one with Akayama. Akayama used to be a prominent character in the series, being playable in 4 and 5, was part of the 6th story, but then after that he just kind of vanished. It really felt like RG just didn't know what to do with him, which is sad because he's a great character. I felt really bad for him having been lied about Kiryu's fake death, saying how he felt left out despite being Kiryu and Date's friend, which is true. I really hope with this appearance that it will mean that he will appear more in the main games. I mean, like, come on man, he's such a great character, why not use him, right? Like, he's not doing anything, he's literally just chilling around. This one is not related to Date, but I need to mention it because this one was pretty emotional. So in Kamurocho, Kiryu meets this young Pocket Circuit fellow who works at the Pocket Circuit building. He is not doing great, with kids disrespecting him and saying he's lame. Kiryu has a talk with him and tells him he needs to let the kids do the thing and try to be more cool, you know, be more laid back. Later on, the same kids get robbed from their cars from some assholes, and the Pocket Circuit Man is there to save them, only to get punched and knocked out. Kiryu beats them, and as Pocket Circuit Man wakes up, Kiryu is gone and the kids cheer on him and call him a hero. And then we get to see the original Pocket Circuit fighter from all those years ago, who's appeared so many times in these games, who is now the owner of the establishment. The young Pocket Circuit Man tells him about Kiryu, who helped him find the courage and motivate him. As Pocket Circuit Fighter is alone, he looks at the picture of him and Kiryu and says,
一生ものの友達ができるんだもんな。ポケサーって最高だよね。カズマくん。いつかまた巡り会えたら、またあの頃みたいに、子供みたいに泣いたり笑ったり、怒ったりしながらさ、ポケサーやろうぜ。カズマくん。
We also get to see Komaki again, which we have not seen him since Yakuza 5. Jeez, that's 12 years ago. Oh my god. But I'm happy we get one final fight with him. It does seem though that this might be the last time we see him, which is pretty sad, but I mean, hey, he has lived a long and a good life. Wouldn't it be cool if he could at least teach Ichiban too before he disappeared, you know? Maybe the next game? That would be pretty cool. However, there was the one that I personally disliked, and it was the one with Sayama. Sayama is one of the most baffling shaftings of a character in the entire series. She was in Yakuza 2 and was a great character, one of my favorites actually. But then at the start of Yakuza 3, she was like, nah, I'm going to America. See ya, wouldn't wanna be ya, and never returns. But now she's finally back here and it was so nice to see her again, but I don't like how this one played out. She meets Date and they start talking about Kiryu. Date mentioned how she's married to the job due to never getting married, with her saying how Kiryu was the only one she could ever see being married to. Date wants to tell her Kiryu is alive, but Kiryu tells him not to, and that it's fine. So of all the characters, I don't understand why it's so bad at telling her. She's just going back to America, so it's going to be in Japan. I don't understand why not telling her at least. Also, they had a huge missed opportunity with not having her in the story in Hawaii. This would have been such a perfect time to get her back in the series, but at last, that's not the world we live in. Last one I want to talk about before we move on to the next point is Kiryu meeting Yuki again. And Yuki started out as a hostess at the Grand Cabaret Club in the 80s with the help of Majima in it. It became very popular. Then in the mid-2000s she opened her own cabaret club, and with the help of Kiryu, it became popular. She decided to retire and move her grand club to Kamurocho, with Koyoku taking over. Koyoku was the best hostess at Yuki's cabaret. Yuki wanted to start her own ramen shop, but it's not gone very well, as she's barely getting any customers. She doesn't want to disappoint Koyoku, as Yuki is her role model, so she's been telling her she's been doing just fantastic. Kiryu also meets Koyoku, who is also not doing great. She did not realize how difficult it would be to be a boss of a club like this, and as such is struggling, especially since they moved to a new place. But because she didn't want to disappoint Yuki, she also told her she's also doing fantastic. So both Yuki and Koyoku meet up again and confess both not doing good with their business, with Yuki coming to help the cabaret club again and Sayoko joining. But they also need a male host to greet the guest, which is Kiryu. It all goes swimmingly and they do the iconic 4 shine pose. There are more than these, but I don't want to sit here all day talking about them. But let's move on to the drinking links, which is where we get to know the characters more, with both Ichiban and Kiryu being there to help their problems. The drink links were one of my favorite parts of 7. Getting to know the characters more and build on a relationship was pretty great. Same applies here, but now we also get to see Kiryu make bonds with some of them too. On Kiryu's side, he will have drink links with Seunshi, Sayoko, Sao, and Namba. So let's go through them. Namba talks about how before he got fired, he had a job where there was a girl he liked that started getting harassed by her boss. So he works as a secretary and her boss is constantly trying to ask her out. Not only that, but he thinks her boss is the reason he got fired, not because of Ichiban. They do meet up with his ex-boss and does confirm that Namba got fired not because of Ichiban, but because the boss didn't like him. They beat him and he promises not to harass the girl again. Namba, while he is sad he lost the job because, he liked it, is at least happy he knows the secretary won't be harassed at work anymore and that Ichiban was not the cause, so Ichiban doesn't need to feel bad about him for that. Shihunchi deals with her uncle possibly being a traitor. Her uncle is someone she had looked up to since she was a little kid, so the thought of this makes her very sad. As it turns out, he was trying to form a small group and take over the organization so he can control it, but Kiryu of course is there to stop them. Not only that, we also get to see her fangirl or have a crush on Kiryu as he admires him a lot, which is pretty charming to see, especially for a serious character like her. Saeko talks first about her feelings about Ichiban and him proposing to her first date. Very early on in the game, Ichiban gets the courage to ask Saeko out for a date. It goes well until Ichiban starts to yap about wanting to marry her and just says a bunch of crap essentially. Saeko was not happy with this and did not talk with him for over a year. Her main problem though comes in the form of a guy who wants to marry her but she doesn't want to get married as she's too busy with work. Also some guys have been stealing her hostess, with her immediately going after them. She finds the guy who was responsible for stealing the hostess, and as it turns out, the guy who wanted to marry Saeko was on it too. Kiryu arrives and with the pyro lesbianism they beat him up. The guy tries to apologize and tries to tell her he really wants to marry her, saying how he will do anything to make her happy. Saeko's response, however? It's here we get one of my favorite scenes from Saeko ever.
くだらないね。くだらない長話を最後まで聞いてやったんだから、今度はそっちも聞きなさい。まずそこに転がっている店長に言って、二度と私の店の子たちに近づくなって。もしまた引き抜きを仕掛けてきたら、この町で共存する気はない。必ずあんたたちの店を潰して偉人町から追い出す。
あ、でも僕のプロポーズの返事の方は。
まだ私の話が終わってない。
はい。
あんたのプロポーズは残念だけど私には響かなかった。こんな状況で言ってくれた勇気だけは買うけどね。私以外の人にだったら通じるかもしれない。でもまだこれ以上私に言い寄ってくるつもりなら屈辱を与え、決して立ち直れないような言葉もかける。
そんな。
二度と私の前に現れないように。それが社長、あなたのためです。それではごきげんよう。
The hostess returned to her cabaret and the anime cabaret club has stopped harassing them, so all good there. And then we get to Sao, who is having trouble with some food critic who wrote a bad review of his restaurant. At first Sao wants to ignore it because it's not really a big deal, but then some of his old members from his old clan started to hunt the critic down for daring to say anything negative about his cooking. Sao and his previous members were going to have a meal together, but then the critic comes around the corner and the members wants to beat the absolute shit out of him. They want to kill him, but Sao won't let them, so Kirin Sao beats him up. After beating up his old members, it does turn out that the critic did actually love his food, but due to Sao not letting him take pictures inside the restaurant, he got really mad. So Sao cooks for him another meal as the critic is eating with all his heart out. So these were the ones for Kiryu. For Ichiban, we got Adachi, Tomisawa, Yongi-han, and Chitose. Adachi's drinking revolves around him thinking of a girl who several years ago tried to warn him and the other cops about the potential robbery that could happen in her parents' store. But he and the others didn't believe her, so they didn't do anything about it before it was too late. Thankfully, her and her parents were safe, but the damage had already been done. She started to hate cops, rightfully so, and ever since then, Adachi has felt regret. He then heard she had moved to Hawaii around the area they're in and opened her own jewelry shop. He eventually finds the shop, but when talking to her, she remembers him and screams him out of the shop. Not only that, but Adachi overheard some men talking about wanting to rob the place, so he tried to warn her, but she didn't listen. When arriving at the store again, the place was getting robbed, but thankfully Ichi and Adachi stopped the robbers. The girl forgives Adachi and thanks them for their help. Chitose's one involves around her grandpa, who is her only family member she really loves. She mentioned multiple times in the game how she doesn't really love her family because it feels like her family is just there for brownie points for her father, how it all feels fake, with her grandpa being the only one who really respected her. As she started to hang out more with Ichiban and the gang, she stopped talking to her grandpa. He tried to get in contact with her, but she did not respond. Then she finds out he is missing, not being able to locate him anywhere, even thinking he might have gone to District 5 to look for her. They of course ask the greatest character of all time, Jeff the motherfucking taco guy, what happened to him, and when they do, Grandpa shows up. But now he wants to fight Ichiban alongside his minions. After the fight, Grandpa apologized to Ichiban, thinking he had kidnapped her, but Chitose telling everything that happened to her since last they talked. We're all being nice and good, now she's being honest with Grandpa and telling her basically everything that happened. Tomisawa deals with him having spotted his ex-fiancée again after several years. Years ago, Tommy got arrested for a crime he didn't do, which led his wife to turn very skinny and unhealthy and basically just being depressed. He hadn't been seeing her for years until recently when he met her new husband. He used a fake name while talking to her husband until the husband arrives at the bar Ichi and Tommy's at, and a group of dudes comes and wants trouble. But it turns out the guys have been hired by the husband to prove it was Tomisawa and see how much he wants to apologize to his ex-fiancée. Then right around the corner, his old ex is coming. With no hesitation, he starts to talk with her. For Tommy, it is of course very sad to see someone he loved moving away and marrying someone else, but he is glad she's doing good, and even better than before. Now lastly, we got Yoongi Hans, which is by far my favorite one in the game. So with Seonshi joining Kiryu, Yoongi Han was tasked to lead Liumang, but he wanted to help Ichiban and gang in Hawaii. He gave the leader job to someone who he thought was going to do a great job, though she does call him a lot about problems and such. He then gets a call that she is in Hawaii too, which makes Yoongi Han pretty stressed, because like, why is she here? Why is she leaving her post? Both Ichi and Yoongi Han eventually find her being harassed by some guys, but Yoongi Han says she's just doing it as an act because she can defend herself, but Ichiban still wants to help her out. After the fight, Yoongi Han had to talk with her and how it was irresponsible of her to leave her post like that. She did, however, give someone else the position while she was gone. When Yoongi Han asked how she did that, she said they did it exactly like Yoongi Han did, saying they are just the leader while they were gone and traveling to Hawaii. Yoongi Han is absolutely appalled by this, but like, he did the exact same thing to her. And this is where we get my favorite line from Yoongi. On top of that, when Yoongi Han left Hawaii, he didn't even tell Seonshi about it too. He was annoyed how she and Kiryu got all the fun while he got all the boring work. But not only that, her phone rings, and as it turns out, the guy she left in charge is also in Hawaii. Back at the bar, all is now cleared up, with both of them having left back to Japan, with Yoongi Han also telling Seonshi he had left to Hawaii. At the end of each drink link, as well as the leader takes a person to a certain place and takes a picture with them. The drink links don't only give us more scenes with these characters, but it also makes them help out more in battle. When increased more, you'll be able to do these friendship attacks. These do really good damage and have different effects. Mostly damage, with the exception being Psycho, who can heal. My favorite one has to be the one with Kiryu Namba and Ichiban Yoongi Han. Kiryu and Namba drink alcohol and spit out fire like a dragon, and Yoongi Han and Ichiban get their guns out and shoot the person to death. Increasing your friendship also does increase the chance of a random teammate doing an extra attack after you're done one, which is very helpful. Your friendship with the members also tied with the costumes you can unlock. And last, I want to mention before I move on to the next point, is that walking around the city, you also get a lot of conversation with the characters. There are plenty of them in the game, and they're also so fun to listen to. They also happen when you eat at certain places, and we get these lovely table conversations that can be about pretty much anything.
てか蝶は何さりげなくレモン回避してんだよ。ドヤ顔で解説してたくせに。
俺は一般論を言っただけだよ。
あっそ。
すまなかったなサイコ。詫びとしてお前の鳥にレモン多めにかけておいたぞ。
私はレモンいらない派なの。
Speaking of Joy, the soundtrack is fantastic. Not as fantastic as 7's soundtrack, but I still think it's really good. Several of the battle tracks are great, like Giftiger Fullhalter. Impregnable Triangle. The 4, and of course the Barracuda theme. But also the I Am Jelly track that plays in when choosing costumes. It's just, ooh, it is so good. You also get the Receive You track, and it's amazing as well here. But my absolute favorite track is the 4. It plays during the last long battle when there are hordes of enemies, helicopters shooting through a window, and all around just everything trying to stop you. But despite that, Kiryu pushes himself through it all. RDG yet again does a great job when it comes to the soundtrack. The game has plenty of side activities, some returning and several new ones, so let's go through them all. The Can Collect game from 7 is back, and it's just as fun as in that game. I really enjoy this minigame, it's very satisfying. There's also the usual returning minigames like batting, arcade games, billiard. However, the Cabaret Club, like in the previous Yakuza games, don't return. And honestly, thank God, because in A Man Who Raised His Name, these were very uncomfortable. I mean, nothing against these ladies, I'm sure they're pretty nice people, but this was just so weird. Using this live action footage, like, oh, I didn't like it. It felt so weird. On the new side activities, we got the bike deliveries, which is basically like Uber Eats, but for bikes. These will have each one bike around a part of the city to deliver orders to customers. You have to collect a certain amount of food items to be able to deliver them, and with style. Doing flips and tricks increase your points, or bike on the side of a building, seeing each one goes as fast as possible. He gets away from the bike, so he has to air swim to get it back. This mode is really fun. It's fast paced, it's wacky, and it's just fun. There's also this Pokemon Snap parody game mode where you take pictures of weird dudes, and just like Pokemon Snap, this is just not really that interesting. I mean, at least this minigame is pretty short, but I just think being on rails makes it so much less fun to me. Imagine if you could just walk around and take the pictures that way. It would be so much cooler, but I get it, it's a minigame, and in other words long game, so it's not really a big issue here. Now, there are also 2 more side activities that act as a side quest. These 2 were pretty heavily focused on and took a while to beat. The first one is Dondoku Island. So in the middle of the main story, upon walking to the beach, each one sees some dudes mocking a turtle. Each one beats them up and saves the turtle, but...
化け物って失礼だな。ねえ。
なんなんだ君はだ
あらあらららら。ああ、気絶しちゃった。
He then wakes up to a mysterious place. A guy with a red and green monster greets him saying they are at Donki Island, a resort that used to be at 5 stars, but due to all the trash, it has been turned into a 0-star resort. Some pirates have been dumping all the trash here, which has scared everyone away. Here in this, each one wants to help them to get the island back on track and make it as good as it used to be, or even better. On Donki Island, you'll be cleaning out trash, gathering materials, collecting bugs and fish, building things, and making sure to satisfy your guests. This game mode is really fun. Like, the first time I arrived here, I did not leave until I reached 5 stars. I spent about 30 in-game days here, and I don't regret it. But there is also something to be careful about when being here, and that's the pirates. Like I mentioned earlier, these were the guys who dumped the trash on the island and will come regularly to try and beat you up. There is a story on how the leader had a family run a resort, but someone else dumped trash on their island and ruined their business, so now he has sworn to take revenge on this island for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why they decided this island, but okay. Dude is still loose though, so it's still beat him up. As you clean more and more of the island, you will unlock more parts to build things, and certain characters will start to work there too. You got the old man who really needs a girlfriend, Elmo's cousin on crack, high as fuck green monster, Build Mr. Bobby who was bald, 2 girls, and a smartass for a kid and a parrot. The guests you get on the island can also vary with what they need to be fully satisfied. They have different tiers which depend on how much you need to do to satisfy them. For example, this homeless man could just sleep in the most shittiest shelter ever, and that's good enough for him. While someone in S tier will need to have the best, most expensive house you can get, with the island having super high rank and more. But of course, the higher the rank the tourists are, the more money you will get from them too. Dondoka Island was a pretty great time. I dare say maybe it might be my favorite minigame in the series. I mean, at least it's way better than Curious Real Estate or Ichiban's Confessions. So overall, the Dondoka Island was a pretty great time, even though I'm gonna have nightmares of these 2 monsters. The other side activity that's very focused on is the Sujimon stuff. Sujimon was also a thing in 7, with the professor tasking you to receive data for all possible Sujimon each one could find. And in Infinite Wealth he is back, but now there's a whole tournament going on with Sujimon trainers all over Hawaii, with the professor tasking Ichiban alongside Sudachi to beat the tournament, and the boss king as a Sujimon League is not the same as before. Not only that, but it's revealed that the professor was a Pride champion before he left. So here's what's kinda weird though. The Sujimon are creatures Ichiban and Kiryu sees from their perspective, while the others can only see normal guys. But this implies a lot of other people also sees the Sujimon itself, which would mean a lot of other people are either schizophrenic, or some of these Sujimon are actually just people in costume. So this whole Sujimon thing is a parody on Pokemon, just like Dundoka Island was a parody of Animal Crossing New Horizons. You will catch wild Sujimon, build your own team, leveling them up and evolve them. You're giving a start at the beginning, being Sudachi and his 2 students. His 2 students though, they just fucking suck. I barely use them at all, but Sudachi, he is surprisingly pretty good. Well, for the first 2 bosses, then I got some Legend Sujimon and Kuro Kazuma and replaced him. That is until later when he became Ultra Instinct Adachi, or aka Super Sudachi, and became way stronger, getting back to my team. You know, when I think about it, Sudachi is such a weird character. He started out in Yakuza 4 in his dojo as part of Sajima's side quest, even meeting in Sortly in 5, but then he came in 6 where he fought against Kiryu, and now he is here. Despite him being weird and somewhat pathetic, I like him. He's a good fighter and he does deserve respect for still going strong for so long. In the Sujimon side quest, you will battle against the big 4 members, with the last one being the final one, King. When winning against King, it turns out the company behind the league has held King's mom captive in the hospital, as if he ever left the company, they will kill her. But Ichiban beats them and the other members saves King's mom and restore balance to the league. I really like this side mode. At first I didn't like it so much, I found it kind of invasive and kind of just boring, but as it went along, I started liking it more and more. Also, the music is just fantastic. Never Look Back is one of the best tracks in the whole game, and it's in this mode of all things. I'm really happy I got to see this full side mode to the end, but please RDG, just get Sudachi a girlfriend next game. He really needs it. Usually in my videos I've already talked about the story or talked about it as the video goes long, but I'm not going to do that here because the game is just so long and there's just so much that happens in the story. If I did what I did in the Signals video on here, it would have been 3 to 4 hours long. I just don't feel like editing such a long video. Like I just have no time for that. But I do really like the story and the new characters in it. But I still want to highlight my favorite scenes and some of my favorite new characters from this game. Most of the main characters in the group are from 7, with Toast and Tomisawa being the new ones in this game. I pretty much love all the party members with their distinct unique personalities and amazing interactions. And the same could be said for the newcomers Tomisawa and Chitose. It's kind of funny how both almost got Ichiban to jail and I hated them at first, but then he befriends them, we start to learn more about them and I start to fall in love with both of them. Tomisawa is, well, normal compared to others in the group. You can see in multiple cutscenes how he's scared of fighting and usually thinks it's better to stay away from trouble. Even his character profile makes him look like he's in constant pain from always diving into danger. Despite that though, he's not a scaredy cat and is willing to help Ichiban even if it means he will die. Ichiban truly did save Tomisawa from a miserable life to being friends with the Yokohama hero. Tommy is a great character in general, and him being more normal compared to others ironically makes him stand out more. He also has one of my favorite scenes in the entire game.
目が俺らの人生をめちゃくちゃにしやがったのか。
許してくれ。ロマは死んだが、今からでも私の力を使って罪を取り消そう。金も払う。100万、1000万ドルだ。どうだ。これまでの人生を取り返すには十分な額だろう。ふざけんな。金で俺の子供が帰ってくるのか。どこまで人をコケにしやがる。それにこのいい写真もばらまいてやるよ。楽しみにしとけ。
Chitose is a pretty confident but silly person. She's joyful and likes to crack jokes, but she's also pretty serious at times. Chitose backstabs Ichiban multiple times in the story, but not because she wanted to. She was blackmailed into doing so, or else a secret would have been out about her Yuta persona Ari trying to expose her father's company. I mentioned earlier that in the drinking session that her and her father's relationship is not in a good spot right now, as she feels that he doesn't love her or her family. However, later on she does reveal her secret not only to him, but to everyone else in the world. Chitose has one of the best character arcs in the whole series. It is absolutely fantastic. I really expected not to like her, but she became one of my favorites easily. She is definitely my second favorite female character in the whole series, after Psycho being number 1 though. Infinite Wealth also not only got one main antagonist, but 2, those being Bryce and Ebina, both being very different from each other when it comes to motivation to a character in general. Bryce is the leader of the Palacana, an organization set to help people in need, like giving orphans a home or donating food to the less fortunate. However, he is also the leader of the cult side of Palacana, using his powers to kill others and gain control over several parts of Hawaii, even having the Barracuda and the Chinese Mafia on the side. Bryce's only goal is power. He doesn't have a sad backstory or any redeeming motivation. He's simply a bastard that wants to kill everyone who stands in his way. Bryce was not only a very unique antagonist, but also a great one. He's just so unsettling and creepy. Always managed to be one step ahead of Ichiban and gang. A great example showing what type of character he is in the intro when Ichiban is about to fight him. Bryce will use everyone else before even thinking of going into battle himself. Bryce is definitely the most intimidating villain in the entire series. The other antagonist, Ebina, does have a more understandable motivation. As he's working with Bryce to ship Yakuza to Hawaii to work for him, it turns out he's going to ship all of Yakuza away from Japan so they can die out in Hawaii as revenge for not helping his mother and abandoning her before she died as a kid. Ebina sees Yakuza as nothing more but as scumbags who ruins it for everyone else. It is also revealed that Ebina is Ichiban's half-brother, being the son of Arakawa. I liked Ebina, but I think Bryce kinda overshadowed him. Bryce just felt like a much bigger threat. I mean, the dude got a massive shark and octopus on the side. I mean, like, that's pretty threatening, right? But I do still enjoy Ebina. I just think Bryce is the better antagonist of the two. Also, just a nitpick, I think emotionally the fight with Ebina would have much more impact if Ichiban was fighting him, but that's just me. We also got a couple of side antagonists, like Dwight being the lead of the Barracuda gang. He's pretty cool, I like him, and his English voice actor is Danny Trejo, so that's actually really fucking awesome. Nothing much more to say about him though. But the biggest surprise for me was Yamai. I went into thinking he was just gonna be a decent antagonist, but he was so much better than I could ever expect him to be. Yamai starts out as an antagonist against Ichiban and Kiryu for having gotten a request from Bryce to hunt down Ichiban's mother. But when Yamai learns the reason why Bryce wants to find his mother, he stops trying to kill Ichiban and slowly starts to become an ally. But even before that, when Kiryu was coughing up blood and just basically almost dying, he took him in and laid him on the bed and had a doctor watch over him 24/7. As Yamai has a lot of respect for Kiryu, Yamai flew to Hawaii after having killed his own patriarch in Japan for a long time ago. It was pretty unknown why he did it, but when traveling back in Japan, we get to find out why. As it turns out, the patriarch's daughter was someone Yamai was in love with. For them to be together, however, he needed to kill her dad with her requesting it. And when he finally does, she tells on the others in the clan and blames it on him. With no choice, he had to flee the country. He did want to go back to Japan at some point to seek revenge against her and kill her, but when he does finally find her, he finds out she has dementia. She doesn't remember anything. She has had it way worse than him for a long while, battling this incurable disease, and as such, he doesn't kill her. When she wakes up, she's cold, so he gives her her own jacket.
ねえ暖房つけてくださらない？ここ冷えるわ。あったかい。ありがとね。
いいえ。 いいのか？
ああ、もう寒くね。
かっこつけやがって。
なあ、かっこよかったな。
だな。
Also want to point out that throughout the game he has been shivering even near fire and such, but when he gives her jacket, he feels warm. Also, he has this scene.
おい。
The last new character I do want to bring up is LJ, who despite everything he did, I actually ended up liking. In the beginning, Ichiban and L-chan start to bond with him pretending to have non-functional legs, but in the middle of the story it's revealed that he has been working with Bryce and Dwight behind the scenes, which caused a bunch of Barracuda members to storm in and attack them. Not only that, but he's the one who's been blackmailing Chitose. Ichiban finds him locked in an apartment with a hurt leg and a bunch of people outside with cameras. He is such a despicable character, a character that's done so much harm, yet Ichiban at the end still wants to call a friend.
お前はいつまで友達ごっこしてんだ。ごっこじゃねえんだって。俺はエイちゃん、おめえのことをダチだと思ってる。
Ichiban also tries to convince L-chan to turn himself in. Even if L-chan does serve his sentence, his crimes will never be undone, but he can always start over, and Ichiban will be waiting for him.
だからよ、エイちゃん、おめえが人生やり直してって思うなら、俺と一緒に行こうぜ。俺はずっとおめえが出てくるの待ってるからよ。何年でも何十年でも絶対によ。そんな言葉誰が信じるってんだ。でも本当に待っててくれるんだろうな。あんたはずっとそうだった。あんたみたいな人が本当にいるなんてな。ああ、バカだってよく言われるよ。バカか。俺の方がよっぽどバカだ。
After convincing L-chan to turn himself into the police, Ichiban helps him to get there with a bunch of people taking pictures of them. Ichiban then pushes the person down and they start to hate the two, as L-chan is crying and saying how he's sorry for everything. After arriving at the station, Ichiban tells L-chan he will be there no matter how long it will take before he releases, and L-chan smiles and waves back. I understand how some find it hard to forgive L-chan for everything he did, but for me, I like him. Seeing him feel genuinely sorry and turn himself in shows he wants to make up for what he did. By the way, the whole sequence with Ichiban and L-chan was just incredible. One of my favorite scenes in the entire series. I really hope we get to see L-chan in the next game alongside Yamai. Both of these two were such interesting characters and it would have been such a shame just not to have them again. Speaking of characters that might not show again, well, I think it's a good time to talk about Kiryu, as this is his last game. Kiryu, having been diagnosed with cancer only having 6 months, means this will be his final journey, and looking at the ending and how he looks, it's safe to say he won't be back in the next game. I personally think as a send-off, this game did his character really well. There is one scene with Kiryu I do want to highlight because it was one of my favorites in the whole game. So at some point in the game, Kiryu and the others find Majima, Saitama and Daigo, who are 3 Yakuza legends. Kiryu wanted to ask if they wanted to help him, but they refused because they were too scared. Kiryu calls them cowards and they start to fight. After the fight, even without their help, Kiryu is still going against Ebina, even if it means he will die. As Daigo says, there's no reason to die like that despite having only a few months left, but Kiryu disagrees.
でもだからってわざわざあんたが死にに行くことはないだろう。逆だ、大悟。俺は少しほっとしてる。やっと死ねるんだってな。何言ってんだあんた。お前らの言う通り、俺も散々他人の人生を狂わせてきた。ただでさえヤクザだ。
世間に顔向けできる生き方なんてしちゃいねえ。なのに俺ばかり生き残ってきた。
Kiryu feels like it's his responsibility to fix all of this because, well, that's what he has always been doing. I also think it's interesting how usually in the series Kiryu is the one who's being asked to help, but this time he's the one to ask them for help. He feels like his death is finally worth something. Dying for a cause like this would be much more impactful than just dying in the shadows. The most heartbreaking part about this scene and his character in Infinite Wealth is that how he feels like he's done nothing but to harm others. When it comes to Ichiban though, I mean, it's not much more to say, other than he is an amazing protagonist who can see the best even in the worst kind of people, except for Kumai, because he's just a piece of shit. While it is sad to see Kiryu go away, I'm still very glad we just got an amazing protagonist who will continue in his footsteps. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Overall, I think Infinite Wealth is incredible with its amazing combat system, great soundtrack, beautiful scenery and locations with great side content and awesome story. This alongside 7 are my favorite entries in the series and I'm looking so much forward to the next entry. That's it for now folks, and I will see you all next time.